Hi, this is Wing from City Lux. Today we're going to be talking about bullet journal and specifically bullet journal 2.0. So those of you who's been using the original bullet journal, now we have the new bullet journal 2.0 in two fantastic colors, black as usual and then a new nice powder pink color as well. So I'll just be running through some of the differences. Those of you who have been using the bullet journal original one, you are in for a treat because this is a massive upgrade for the original, and then I will go through the differences so that you understand a lot better as well what you are in for when you get the new bullet journal 2.0. Alright, let's get started. Firstly, I think everybody who's been following the bullet journal or bulletjournal.com, you all would know that Ryder Carroll's been working really hard. First time he worked on with Leuchtturm, he was using the Kickstarter to get really strong support to get the project started, and that's how the original bullet journal got off and got started. Alright, so now after listening to all the feedback over the years and what kind of features that you guys want over there, and then make a major improvement here. So I'm just gonna go straight into it. Alright, so when you open this up, you can see over here it's got a nice metallic finish. It's not just the cover itself, but what you're gonna see when you open up, and you can see the new 2.0 compared to the original. Let me show you the original. We've done some customization. So over here you can see 1.0, the logo was much bigger. Now it was debossed, now it's actually embossed out here and smaller as well, so it's a little bit more discreet. I think you can see as well, they try to keep the thickness as much as possible similar, but actually what's a very big difference is that 2.0 is using 120 GSM paper. When you use it as an art journal, maybe you are really pushing the paper to the maximum, and that's when you feel, hey, the 80 GSM paper is good, it works well with fountain pens, it works well with all the gel pens, ballpoints and stuff like that. But when I want to do a little bit more serious watercolors, you might find, hey, it still bleeds through a little bit on the reverse side. Alright, so now you have 120 GSM paper, so it's much thicker, and of course the number of pages is less as well. So now the number of pages you can get will be around 206. So first thing you open up, you will notice that it's gorgeous on the inside as well. Yeah, so if you compare with the original one, the first page you have is just like that. It's pretty simple. This looks really amazing. You can feel it's such a luxurious product. It's got this metallic imprints on them. Alright, and you might say, what's the first thing on the left side? This is a grid layout. Okay, so what does this help you to do? First thing you can see is the grid layout is that you can feel here, those of you who have been using the bullet journal to draw your columns and splitting up your pages, you will find this very useful as a guide, because previously a lot of you would maybe say count the number of dots. Then you can see, so it shows half pages and then 1/3 pages, and then it comes to 1/4, 1/6 and 1/8 columns. Alright, so if you need to split to 8 columns, yep, there is actually a guide over here. And then over at the top, this is to show you for cutting into your rows. So columns, rows, it's all calculated for you already, so then it's very easy for you to calculate that. And then of course at the bottom you have all the numbers to show actually all the numbering of the dots, right? So you can see the first dot, the second dot, so you can see the 9th dot, the 13th dot and the 17th dot as well. And on the page that faces you, I think this is one of the main philosophies of bullet journal being distilled by Ryder Carroll. This is how Ryder Carroll is helping us to lead a more intentional life. So first thing, you need to know your what, and then you need to know your why. So if you are not very familiar what's up, you can go to bulletjournal.com. You can also just scan the QR code if you are lazy to spell. Alright, just scan it over here. You can go straight to bulletjournal.com. Alright, so instead of the plain white pockets from the past, and then the previous ones had got some guides behind. So you have to sacrifice a few pages in the guide behind, and maybe some of you will think I already know how to use a bullet journal because I have already like 6 copies of this and I don't need this guide anymore. It's true, you don't need it anymore. I don't use mine either. So, and then as a starter, you had tips in the beginning. Like if you've never gone to bulletjournal.com, you need some tips on getting started. Now you don't need it anymore either. Then your bullet journal is much cleaner because it's no longer there. It's all been cleared up. Your first few pages doesn't have those guides anymore either. So you can see the next page, you can still put in your name or whoever you're giving out to. Then the key is a lot more subtle over here because it's mainly for you to fill up with your own keys at the bottom. The starter part is just to show. And then this is new, alright, an intentions page. This page is for you to write down how you think this bullet journal, or what is your intention. How is this bullet journal supposed to serve you before they move on to the usual index and the usual future log? And what they've done as well, if you look at the pages closely, is that you will see the margins are actually wider, margins all around. I think that's useful for me because I always use washi tapes to tag along the side and along the pages for me. That's how I actually indicate some major pages. And then I will have to try to remember to avoid writing at those edges. So I think having wider margins is easier to organize. And if you notice also at the bottom, you can see over here next to the page numbers, they've also added extra dots to show the guides for you to split up into 3 columns. Okay, so all those are extra guides that are useful. The usual stuff that has been useful are still there, which is the 3 page markers in different colors so that you don't get confused, black, white and gray. And as usual, the pages still fold flat. Alright, so this book is always good to go. You don't have to purposely open up too much to go and season it before it opens flat, so that's always good. Alright, cool. Then I think for those who are new, then like, hey, if I'm new, then I lost all the information on how to start. Don't worry, because whatever was printed on the last few pages and first 2-3 pages is now condensed into a booklet that is removable instead. So this is way better solution. It looks beautiful. So if you're giving this as a gift to someone who's starting out and doesn't know anything about bullet journal, that's cool because they can read through all this. You can also pick up Bullet Journal Method book by Ryder Carroll. Okay, I think that's off on most major bookstores. Okay, then of course he's got a starter talking about time, and this is just a short verse talking about it and talking about the system, explaining the system a little bit. So, and how to set up your own indexes. So I think if you are one of those who are lazy to read, right, I finished his whole Bullet Journal Method book, but some people might read and then still be wondering what's the system about. This is a super summary for you to get into it quickly. Those of you who read and then still don't understand, check out our workshops. We have workshops regularly to talk about bullet journal and how you can set them up. And maybe you can look at our blogs as well, because we really want everyone to get to understand and start off with their own bullet journal. Okay, so talking about reflections and stuff like that. So this one I won't go through it in too much detail. Read it up on your own. What else is inside? Okay, of course the usual is this is what you get in all Leuchtturm notebooks. Alright, introduction to the company, a thank you. What's special for this is the stickers. Yeah, so we love stickers here at City Lux. Alright, but this is specifically for the bullet journal guide. Look at this. So over here, maybe I run through first. On the top, these are the months for those of you who would love to have a metallic print. So this is really nice. Okay, and then if you've been using bullet journal the way Ryder Carroll uses, I follow that method. I don't pre-draw all my months into squares as if it was a planner. Alright, the simple way is just to write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the number of dates on that month, and then write the actual days, right? So you can just stick this first down and then match it along with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. That's what all these short letters are for, and that's setting up your monthly page. It's very simple and very simple to write. I write it every single month. Yeah, for those who don't like the handwriting, who likes printed stuff, here you go. You just need to stick it, and then you can see over here they have created such that there's definitely enough for you to overrun for that month and cut off that portion that is excess that you don't need. Okay, we can always show people how to use this as well. If you all need to, let me know. You guys can write down a comment below as well. I really need to know even how to use a sticker. Okay, we can shoot another one for that. And then of course, this being the bullet journal logo, get things done in a flash, yeah, and then bullets in different sizes. So these are stickers are all included. All right, the usual stuff. I think the back pocket is now black, so it's still fabric, so it will hold pretty well. Yeah, I think that's the main things that you need to look out for, the margins. Then after this, what we want to do is to be able to test the 120 GSM paper. Is it as good as it sounds? Alright, I think most important, we need to know whether the paper quality is what you really want to use. Yeah, so what else do you all want to know? You all can let me know at the bottom as well before we dive straight into testing out the paper. Alright, so now we're gonna get into the different materials or the different inks we're gonna use to try to do the torture test. Alright, so we're trying to torture the paper here. So previously the bullet journal was using any GSM paper. So you can see also actually some of the fine differences. Before I get into materials, look at it closely, and then you might see, hey, the dots are not there anymore. Originally already, Leuchtturm is one of the best because it's not very obvious. Alright, it's there when you need it, but it disappears when you don't want to see it. So, but now it's even better, it's even finer. So I feel really, if you want to see it, the dots are really still there, but it really disappears in the background when you want to. So it's really nice and faint. The dots are tinier. I have no idea how many micro mini mm those are, but I like it much better. We're gonna start using the ballpoint pen first. Alright, over here you can see this is actually a drag riffle, which means a twist stylus from Leuchtturm itself. So it's got this beautiful look, but inside it's actually a very nice simple ballpoint pen that's 0.7. So I'll just flip to a new page, and then I'm just gonna start writing over here. Alright, so this is, I'm just gonna write bullet journal 2.0. This is a ballpoint black 0.7 mm. Yep. So I'm just gonna raise it up for you guys to take a look. This is very standard. Okay. Over here looks nice and easy. Then I'm moving on to this. This is actually a new gel. I don't know whether I should open up for you guys to see her. Okay, I just let you take a look at this. So this is a 0.5 mm gel. This is a black gel over here. Okay, these are made in Japan. So rollerball technology is from Germany and gel technology is from Japan. So get the Japanese ones. Then this is a bullet journal 2.0 gel black 0.5 mm. So the same, you can take a look here. This is a close-up. Then I'm gonna flip it on the other side. Does pretty well so far, right? Then we do something simple. This is also German. This is Stadler. It's a tri-plus fine liner because it's triple edge. I use this for a lot of drawing. So bullet journal. Okay, I'm trying not to write too hard. Tri-plus fine liner. Oops, pardon my spelling. So, nope. No bleeding whatsoever. Then a lot of students will be using this. This is a mouth liner. Everybody loves a mouth liner. Alright. So I'm just gonna write. So I'm just gonna highlight. And then if I'm super slow at highlighting, let's see whether it gets worse on the other side. So I think works pretty well so far. Doesn't bleed through whatsoever, even for a mouth liner. So even if you're slow at highlighting, you'll do fine as well. Then let's move on to fountain pen inks. I'm going to use a Kaweco, and this is filled up with, actually this should be filled up with 3 Oysters Korean ink. Okay, so this is really rich ones. Okay, so this is fountain pen. This is actually you can see over here, this is a BB. Okay, double broad. This is a Kaweco Sport brass. Okay, so this really flows, and you can see, I don't know whether you can see from the angle as well, actually it's holding the ink really well. Yeah, it's super wet. Okay, just now when I was testing it, when I flipped the page, it wasn't dry yet. So you can see there's no bleeding whatsoever, so it's perfectly good. So probably what we want to be able to observe as well, because this is very wet, because this is a double broad. Okay, so it might take some time for it to dry. So what you can do sometimes is also do a test on how long it takes to dry, because you don't want it to be so impervious until it takes too long to dry. So that's a disadvantage of using some papers like Tomoe River. So Tomoe River paper is excellent. It holds the ink very well, but it's a nightmare for left-handers because it takes forever to dry, and then you cannot continue on to the next page. So far Leuchtturm papers has a good balance between the ink not bleeding through the other side and drying fast enough. So I think we want to maintain that kind of balance. So very popular in those who are new to fountain pens. They cost a fraction of your super duper expensive pens, but they write really well too. So I'm going to try with Kyoto ink. This is Ryder Carroll, which is considered a dry ink. Okay. So those of you who are new to fountain pens, you would notice why we love using fountain pen inks, because you look at the inks, it's amazing, right? And look at the shading, it's really beautiful. So these are a range of Kyoto inks, and Kyoto inks are famous because they have this watercolor effect. Okay, so this is Ryder Carroll, and this is one of my favorite inks actually. It's called Underside of a Leaf Green. So if you take a leaf and look through under the sun, this is the kind of effect you get. Shades really well because the ink is sitting on the paper before it goes into the paper, but it doesn't bleed through at all. So it's really nice. This is good. So this is an F knit. It's really nice, you know. So I think I can see visibly for me at least. That if you're observing close enough, the ink doesn't go into the paper immediately. So if you really like shaded inks, I think the new 120 GSM paper, you'll love it. Yeah, it takes a bit longer before it seeps in, so you can really see the shading. So Bullet Journal 2.0 is the first to use the new 120 GSM paper. It's a new formulation from Germany, so it took them several years to work on this, but now it's finally out, and I think the paper is really nice. So we're gonna try this other twisty paper. Oh, this one flexes so much. It's super smooth, this one that I'm using. It's really nice as well. So this one should be, yeah, this is a Monteverdi ink. Monteverdi. This is a garnet. Okay, this should be super smooth, super nice to write with, and yeah. So look closely. Yeah, so this is fine. I'm not too sure whether this is some kind of feathering though, so maybe I should try a little bit more. Yeah, so maybe you can look at it closely to see whether it is doing any feathering at all. Yeah, so I think for fountain pen inks, we will probably go through brand by brand, or you guys out there who already bought your copy of Bullet Journal 2.0, do try it out, and then write it in comments below as well. Which are the inks you've tested it with? Which are the pens you tested it with? Because we also want to know, because we don't own every single ink in the world. Do test it out. Yeah, torture the paper as much as you can and see what are the real world results. So I think before I go into current brush marker, which is probably the toughest to put on, I will want to test it on a few other stuff. Alright, so you can see we have a lot of pens for you to play with and try, and if you ever get a chance to come to Singapore and come by our showroom, you can test with all the stuff. Okay, so a lot of us will actually use something, a permanent ink, for us to do our outlines before we wash them in watercolor later on. So Micron's a good permanent ink to use. So this one we should test it as well. So this is a super fine, this is a 0.1. Okay, so this is a Sakura, so this is Micron. This is a 0.1 mm. Yep, then I'm gonna test it with the much bigger one. This is, and then we shall see. Okay, so this is a Micron 2 mm. So this is permanent ink. Let's see how it works on the other side. So far so good. Then getting into the brush markers, these are our testers. These are actually over here, you can see these are Pentel brush markers. Okay. Pentel brush pens. Okay, so I'm just gonna test one color. Then I'm gonna use this as well. These are Tombow dual brush. These are water based as well. Okay, so I'm gonna try it out. So I'm gonna use both different tips. So this one's Tombow, and I'm just gonna use the other edge, which is more like a marker edge. So topple, dual brush, yeah. So let's see on the other side. Everything looks perfectly fine. Then curry marker, which is a real torture for the previous 80 GSM paper. Okay, so now we're gonna try it out over here. So this one's metallic, which is permanent. Okay, and this one is water based. So I'm gonna try the water based first. So bullet journal, yeah. So this is a curry. Enough space. Then I'll continue with this. This one's the. Can you see how juicy it is? Okay, curry. Brush. Okay. So you can see over here, it's super juicy and super thick. And what we want to do is to flip to the other side and see how, so amazingly, this one does a lot better. Yeah. So it does very well. Cool. So I think definitely the 120 GSM works a lot better. So those of you who maybe are not so familiar, maybe I should do one run on the previous paper to show you what I mean. So just to show the difference, I think all the other papers should be fine. What we want to show over here is, okay, maybe okay. So you can see the difference. On the 80 GSM, there's quite a bit more ghosting and it's on its way to bleeding through. Yeah, but in the new book, there's no such issue at all. Still looks pretty good. Yeah, I think that's a major improvement already. Cool. So tell me what other inks that you're interested in testing it on. Try it out on your own, then post it and then tag us and let us know as well. You can look for us on Instagram, on Facebook, and I think on most of the mediums you can find us. Alright, just write to us and you can write below as well. Okay, so I think for those of you who are into watercolors, maybe you would like to draw some stuff, then you would actually fill up with inks. Right, so what we can do is something very simple. This is so fine. Yeah. So for example, you're just trying to do this, and then we want to try out the 120 GSM paper and see how it goes. Yeah. I think if we flip the other side, totally clear. Then we just want to do some light washes. Alright. So when you do your first wash and then you flip the other side, wow, it works pretty well. So, right, so doing watercolor, we need to do a few wash, right? So I'm torching the paper as much as I can. I don't know whether you can see over here. Okay, let's see how far this thing goes. Not too bad. You can see it's starting to crimp go up a little bit because it's very wet, but it's not going through yet. Okay. So not torturing enough, right? Let's layer a few more. Okay, so now I'm here. You can see the reflection is very wet already. Fairly wet. Okay. Must remember this is not being sold as watercolor paper. There's no replacement for that because the fibers, everything is different. But just for those of you who are pretty artsy and need to use your watercolor even on your journals, I think it's holding up really well for a non-watercolor paper, right? Okay, to prove it, this is page 21, 22. I didn't cheat and show you extra pages behind. So you can see it's a little bit crinkled up. I don't know whether you can see it over here. Okay, I can feel that it still crinkles up a little bit. But the ink doesn't really bleed through at all. It doesn't flow through at all. So I think it will take a little bit of time to dry up. But most of us should be able to get whatever the desired effect we want out of the simple journaling and adding in some urban sketching, and you don't just need to get a different sketchbook anymore. So you can use this for your urban sketching and have some simple washes of watercolor on it, and this will still hold really well. So I think the new Mojo 2.0 really kicks the competition in terms of the paper quality. So definitely worth the price itself, even without adding in the new features and new guides that's available. This is amazing stuff. Yeah, so guess and try on your own. So this watercolor is actually from Hobin. Alright, so those of you who are familiar, so this is pretty good quality stuff ready. So let's test with some really dark hues. Okay, so those of you who would like to paint the sky, so this is like serious stuff. Hope to not touch other things. This is lighter. So let me mix with blue and then nice bright yellow instead. Okay, so those of you who like to do your watercolor effects, you can see you can really try painting the sky. I then want to mix it up so we can see what kind of effects we can get out of this paper when you push the paper a bit more. We are not an art store, but we love our art materials. Okay, so super wet, right? Yeah, not bad, right? I think it works. Yeah. Of course, you must also remember, if you push your paper very hard, you're still gonna get wrinkled up paper. That is unavoidable. But I think this is quite amazing. Yeah, so the Leuchtturm formulation for the paper, this is their own unique formulation. They didn't just buy it off the market. It took them a long time to formulate this. I think it works. Yeah. Nice. That's the end of our simple introduction and test. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe to us and to like and share this video as well. Do give us some comments. If you missed out anything, do write down in the comments. Tell us how else you want to test it. what else you want to see out from it, or how else you think the bullet journal can be improved even further for 3.0. But in the meanwhile, I think the paper from 80 GSM to 120 GSM is a massive upgrade. I think that alone is worth the price of the book, especially if you do quite a lot of painting, you do quite a lot of coloring with brush markers. I think you really enjoyed it. There are a lot of us who use different kind of markers as well, and there's so many we can't try everything. But I think having that nice thick paper really gives me the confidence to use this new Bujo 2.0. I think previously I was quite happy writing with the different fountain pen inks, but now I think I'm even happier because you don't really see any ghosting right through the other side as well. Yeah, so those of you who are quite sensitive to seeing ghosting on the other side, now there's no more excuse not to use the bullet journal at all. Yeah, I also like the new layout. I think it's good to have the newer, wider margins because as I mentioned earlier, I actually use quite a lot of washi tape on it and for marking out the different pages, so that will allow me to actually use my washi tapes more easily. I think for those who are taking quite a bit of notes as well, it'll be good for you to be able to write different markings as well along the side. So I think nice to have those margins, and also it's an extra area for you to do some decorative art if you are into that. Yeah, I think other than that, it's also good that they've taken a guide out and put it into a separate booklet. So as I want to use the bullet journal of this notebook as my default, I don't have to keep having those guides. Those are extra pages that it's a bit wasteful to carry around. So I don't need a guide, I can keep it aside. I think the stickers, maybe I'm not one who will use the stickers so much, but I think it's a nice touch as well. The metallic part looks pretty nice, so I will seriously consider using that part as well. Yeah, and I feel this guide here is pretty good, right? I'm not into counting the dots. I always had to just estimate, but I know many of you out there actually count the dots whenever you get a new dot grid journal. So this is really good. I think you can save a lot of time calculating. You just need to know how many columns you need. Yeah, so I think overall this is definitely very helpful to have. The Bujo is definitely worth the upgrade, and those of you still hesitating, go out and grab one right now. I think it's definitely way better than getting a normal Leuchtturm notebook, even though the quality of paper, those are all excellent, but this is definitely worth the time. Alright, do check it out. Go to our website as well if you want to buy them. We ship worldwide as well. Alright, see you again. Bye.